I'm going to ask a question here, and I want you to gauge your response to the question I'm about to ask. How does it feel in your mind, in your soul, in your stomach, in your heart? Do you have an answer quickly, or do you have to really stop and think? So here's the question: what does your perfect day look like? All right, I asked the question. Think about it for a second. Were you able to answer it to the T quickly? Like you know it. You already know what that is, and you've smelled it, breathed it, tasted it. You can imagine it in your mind immediately. Or was your response traffic jam? Like I don't know. I haven't thought about it. I have not ever sat down. I've never been asked that before. And here's a further step for you here too. And I've seen this in a lot of people. They answer that question and it's amazing. The smile is on their face because it's a perfect day. And then the smile goes away because they don't think it's possible. They think that's a fantasy land and we'll never have that. So today we're going to talk about how that day can happen. And we're going to talk about it will never happen unless you do or what it is that we're about to discuss. And man, as always, I say it all the time, if there's one person to talk about this, it is with Sean. And I'm working on this, and it's been a blissful journey. I'll speak to it myself. I did not have the answer. When I was first asked this, I'd be like, well, oh yeah, I know what my perfect day is. Okay, tell me the details. Oh, well, well, and then that was basically the answer. There is no answer because it's not thought through. It's not planned out. It's not emotionally and engaged with. So yeah, Sean, on that note, you've asked countless people this at this point. What have you learned? What have you seen? How can people live their perfect day?
Yeah. What man, it's one of the things that I think God has put me on this earth to really bring hope and belief and give people the power to take back control in what they want their day to look like, feel like, smell like, right? I was raised in a traditional family where you get up, you go to work, you drink your coffee, you go to work, you go sit in traffic, you make 100 grand a year and you pay your bills. Whatever's left over, you typically pay for food, hobbies, and you maybe go to college and you rinse and repeat. And you maybe retire in 50, 60 in hopes that you're healthy and you feel like doing what it is that you wanted to do 40 years ago. And being at 37 and being in that middle age of my life, I have realized with all my family and friends and community and people around me that I've met over the years, and I've met thousands of people, is that people are unfulfilled. Business owners, entrepreneurs, intrapreneurs, people that work for employers, myself included, up to 2 years ago, where I was like doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results, which is the definition of insanity.
When you speak to them, Sean, when you hear like what when you speak to those entrepreneurs, business owners, W-2s, what do you what's the pattern? What have you picked up? Where because most people think they might be fulfilled, but then you dig a little deeper and you notice they are in certain areas, and it's a degree of fulfillment, right? They might think they are, but they're only 10% when you really dig deep, or they might be 90%, but there's still 10% there. Like, what do you pick up on knowing? What do you hear when you think, man, they thought they are, they think they were, but actually they're not. Like, and once you get in that conversation with them, they realize they're not. Like, what does that look like? Sound like?
From my experience, there's a lot of what happens is, what does society sell us? What does the news sell us? What does our family and friends sell us? And to a certain degree, like what you don't know is what you don't know.
Mm,
And until you go into your own reflection, into your own awareness, into your own space and solitude and go, is this right? Why don't I feel alive?
hmm.
And what I mean by that is it, I have one life to live and I could fall over tomorrow. And I want to say, when I show up to the gates, right, of heaven, and God says, hey, man, You left it all on the playing field, brother. You
Mm.
freaking, let me play back your video. And dude, you live life to the fullest. You tried your best. You're an imperfect action taker. You tried to live your faith. You tried to do the things that impact and serve, live a happy life, and do the things that you want to did. And Sean, you're not living in regret, brother. You really came alive. You lived authentically through your values, through your beliefs, my man. Or I asked myself, do I want to be the guy that shows up to the gates of heaven and God plays back the video and goes, dude, here's the video. You weren't aligned with your values. You weren't aligned with your beliefs. You weren't aligned with what it was that you really wanted to do, that business that you wanted to start, the exercise, the marathon, the ultra, the traveling. You didn't align your values and your beliefs and what it is that you actually wanted to do on a daily basis, but you did it once a year. Brother, you're in regret because you didn't do the things, have the courage, have the faith in me, have the faith in God to
Mm.
do the things, to come alive, to take that leap of faith, to have that courage, to quit that job, to go start that business, to forward think, backwards plan, right? If it
What
was
do you
easy, everybody would be living their ideal day.
Mhm. What do you hear some people say that they're coming to your door in that moment where they've realized they're not doing that, right? And they want it. They know it's available. They taste it, but they don't see past that yet. Like, what do you hear people say when they come to you? Like, I am feeling like this. Like, is there like a common kind of theme that they have? Like you mentioned, like staring at a wall earlier, and you've said a few other things to me in the past. And I'm like, man, it seems like the same people are feeling this, saying the same things.
Yeah. Yeah. So, some common like statements that I've heard, people say is, and myself included, was the rat race, doing the same thing over and over and over, but not really feeling like that feeling of there's more to life than just what I'm doing, than what meets the eye right now. What am I?
Mm,
And so here recently, like when I was on a call with a potential coachee, I had shared the first few minutes of my story of what that's looked like, and just now I'm helping others work on their lives and their business, and to to potentially live their best life, right? And become the best version of themselves. And in this story, in this when I was talking to this potential coachee, one of the things that he had said was, man, everything that you said, you hit the nail right on the head. And I feel like I'm just staring at a wall.
mm,
And I said,
mm,
well, what do you mean by that? And he goes, well, everything that you're saying as far as doing the same thing over and over and over, but I'm expecting different results, meaning whether it's a business, whether it's a job, whether it's whatever it is that you're doing, why are you doing it? What is the business, or what does the job stand for? What is that going to allow you to get, right? What do you want it to do for you? Instead of just showing up, basically tending to everybody else's needs, the customers, the employees, your community, and your spouse. Like, what is it that you want your life to look like? What is it that you want your life to feel like and smell like? And so what I have found is that there's hope, right? It's like me and you talked about how to
mm,
behind the scenes on the podcast. Like,
mm.
why do people go to church?
Yeah.
Hope, right? Pastors, church, they give hope. You go back to scripture, you go back to Proverbs, you go back and read the Bible. It's hope. It's something to align your actions with when you feel frustrated, angry, depressed, sad, anxiety, lack of purpose, right? And
Mm,
so for me, it's like you'll never live your perfect day consistently unless you're intentional about doing the activities and the actions, the deep, dark work
mm,
on working on yourself, meaning asking yourself these hard pressed questions that may take you a week, 2 weeks. So if I asked you, Ewan, hey, Ewan, put you on the spot, brother,
hit me.
podcast.
Hit me.
What does your ideal What does your ideal day look like? Like, what do you want it to look like? When you wake up in the morning and you go to bed at night, what does that day look like to you? What does it feel like? What does it smell like?
When I wake up, it I have that energy that is like right on par with how my body should feel. Not tired,
Mm,
drained, exhausted. Didn't or this is going to be. I can already feel this day's not going to go well. Right? Not the polar opposite of that. Right? It's the I've gotten the perfect amount of sleep, and I have 100% of my battery charged. Right? It's that
yes.
fresh where I'm just. So it's a feeling for me that first moment, and I get out of bed and I already know I'm going to be working out at the sweet spot, right? So I'm working, I'm going to eat the right foods, man.
Yep.
And there's a few different, I could go down, like, there's different recipes that I would eat, right? But I'm going to eat those things that are going to fuel that workout so that I go into that and it's going to be all out and feel good during that workout and execute so that I know it's going to propel my future workouts.
Mm,
After that, for me, I can get into my creative work and just
mm,
think, and work on things that I love to think about and things that could help people, things that inspire me and would inspire others. So I'm going to spend that thinking time, and that's going to roll right into lunch with my family. And kids might have a sporting event, depends on the day, right? But I'm going to have the availability to go see those things, go be there,
mm,
do that with them, fully present, no phone, no uh, distractions, because it's all clear, set, right? Like that time is set for that, and we roll into dinner. Kids happy, wife is enjoy loving her life, everything she does, she's fully living her life at the same time, and we just have that family time together, and we're close. And after that, man, we love to wind down before the kids' bed. We watch a movie, or we watch a show, or we'll read something together. There's different things that we do, and we'll do all those things, and we laugh, talk, and then we roll into the beds. Kids go to bed, and me and my wife just spending quality time together. More laughter, right? More feeling, so like, or just connection, spending time together, and that would be the ideal. I could do that over and over every day for the rest of my life. What else would I want to do? Right?
mm.
What else would I want to do?
That's beautiful, man. I appreciate you sharing that. And I can tell you that you've put work behind the scenes to think about that. Cause the last time I'd asked you that, it put you on the spot, kind of like what you shared in
Mm-hmm.
the podcast. But that, from my experience, you asked the question, what is the number one thing people, coachees and people that reach out, what that from my experience is they don't know. They've never been asked the question.
Yeah.
20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. They've never been asked the question. I just asked a 50-year-old the other day, I said, what is your ideal day look like?
Mm.
And the first thing that came to the mind was this, right? But there wasn't spelled out. And
Mm.
so if you don't know what your ideal day looks like, then how are you going to be intentional about making that happen and asking yourself, who do I need to become to make that happen?
It's really kind of hard to set up life to have your ideal day, right? Like there's gonna have to be work that goes into it, like hard work, perhaps, right? To shift from where you were to get to where you want to be. That the ideal day, things are going to have to happen, right? You'll have to do things,
Yeah,
and that's with all the hard work. How is your ideal day ever going to happen by accident?
not
Right? It's impossible if you don't even know what it is to even
right,
put the work into to get the ideal day. It's never going to happen, right? So just the first step would be getting clear on what would you actually want it to look like. It's
right.
so important to spend the time to think, because then you can compare it to what your current day looks like. Like, I'm not happy. There is something missing. I don't like what's going on today. Something, if I truly want to live that day that I love every day, the reason I'm here on earth is to serve and to enjoy, right? You'd have to do those things. So yeah, I think that would be step number one, right? Getting clear, like you just said, like you've helped me do, is just get clear the ideal day of at least what's the North Star, the potential, the opportunity, the possibility of what could be, right? Like, because that gets you fired up, gets you excited. Like, I
Yeah.
want that now. I want that. So I'm going to do the things required to have that.
And everybody listening to this and has the power to do that, right?
Mm,
You may not be able to do it on your own. And I think it's more of a struggle and more a more of a challenge to try to do it on your own, because what I have found with working with coaching clients and just business owners and just team members and people that have come into my life is 99.9% of people lack accountability.
Yeah.
And if that's you, one of the things that we're solving here that I'm a big believer in, a big advocate in at Level Up and Live, is that we are helping people and holding them accountable to work on their lives and not in it. And so one of the things that we're trying to help avoid people's failure, in my mind, is the guy that I was 2 years ago. I'm trying to help that Sean avoid the failure of unfulfilled, lack of purpose, frustration, hamster wheel, same thing over and over. There was no fulfillment. There was no, like, I didn't come alive. There wasn't things that I was doing on a daily basis. Like you had said, what does my ideal day look like? Well, I had no clue because nobody had ever asked that. Now that's all I spend my time thinking and manifesting and obsessing over, is getting really clear on what you want it to look like. Did it happen overnight? Absolutely not. Is it a work in progress? Absolutely. But here's the key ingredient. Here's the game changer. I truly wholeheartedly believe that's what we're doing here at Level Up and Live. And I know we're working behind the scenes on a product to be able to roll that out and to invite individuals to come into and go through this 3-month process of that has been a proven concept to really hold that individual accountable. So in 3 months, they can pick their head up and go, holy cow, I've never done this much dark work, deep work on myself. I've never worked harder on myself than I have my entire life. And that's the responses I'm getting. And to
I think
me,
that's
what you
the
can't put a
level
price tag on that.
you can, and the level of energy. Again, I would say it's not. You don't just get to go do it. Like, to me, maybe it is easy. Maybe that's a story I'm telling myself. But whatever has been, right, or what currently is happening for someone, there's gonna have to be. You can't continue to do the same things, right? Because that's what's led to where we are today. So you'd have to do something else, and we don't like change. A lot of time we don't like change. I mean, that's why we don't believe things are possible, because we've read the book, right? We read a book like, oh, I'm fired up,
Yep.
but then why is your life not changed then if you already read the book, or 10 books, or 100? Right? It didn't do anything. You're still
Right.
in the same boat. Like, maybe it was a course you bought, and so having that people connection, getting your thoughts out and sharing it with other people and having it reflected back, that's why it's so powerful, right? Like, you have to have that accountability. Like you're saying, accountability, you can't have accountability without someone else, right? You
Yeah.
can be accountable to yourself, but we're fallible, right? It's much, much, much harder to be accountable with someone else, but that's where the forge, right? Like the crucible, where the metal is melted and it is reshaped, reformed, and having someone else uh, be there with you to do that is the difference, right? Like
Right.
that's what I know.
Well, the biggest thing is too, is like not only the accountability, but also in being in, it's like an old Chinese proverb said, I said this before the podcast, is like the shortest way to get to where you want to go. As far as success and whatever that looks like, your perfect ideal day and what that looks like, designing the day that you want to look like, is go learn from the people that the people that are coming back from doing or actually doing that, right?
Yeah.
And so it's the road most traveled versus the road less traveled. So the road less traveled, if there's people down that road and living that life that you want to live in that on a daily basis, I'm a big believer in that. So why wouldn't you want to go learn from somebody that's already doing that? And because you're going to face obstacles and you're going to face struggles, just like we all do. And the worst thing that could possibly happen is procrastination. You get stuck. Hey, you know what? And that's why I think a lot of times when I think of Disney World, when I think of childhood, when I think of imagination, when I think of these things, anything's possible. Whatever, if you believe it, you can achieve it. And so for me, it's like, that's what I think, that's the challenge that we're facing, is a lot of times people, we give up our hopes, we give up our dreams because things happen in our lives, right? We get content, we get complacent, we rest on our laurels, and we don't
Mm-hmm.
go back and revisit the things that are really important in our souls as a child. When we were a child, we didn't care. We didn't care, have a care in the world. We were just blissful,
Mhm.
vitality, joy. Just living life, no responsibilities. And to me, it's like, why can't I live like that as an adult? Why can't I
People don't
design?
believe it. It's like our last episode was what was the last episode? It was you're not stuck. Your beliefs are.
Yeah. Yep.
And because if you don't believe it's possible, you have a zero chance because you won't do anything that you don't believe is possible. Or you'd be wasting your time and energy. And our brains do not want to spend time doing something when the return it automatically calculates. It will not do it. But once you believe that it's true, that it is possible, you get that crack, that little light that it might be achievable. Then that light starts getting bigger and bigger. Your belief changes. If you can change the belief that you can live that ideal day, and you don't know what that looks like yet, you don't know how that's possible, right? That's people's problem. Like, well, that's not possible because they cannot see how. They don't have a belief. They don't have the vision, or the even the energy or the accountability to ever get there. So they shut it down, just keep existing, and so they stop living. They're not living. They're never going to live that perfect life. So, but it's the belief, right? So if you can hold on to that truth, that if you changed your belief that it is possible, that would be the
Yes.
first step, right? And that is what you're talking about is get back to that belief phase. When you're a kid, you believe you can fly. You
That's
believe
right.
all
That's right.
things are true and possible, and kids pursue those things until someone's opinion tells them that's not possible, and it
Bingo.
slowly starts to
Society. Yep.
shrink their belief, and then you get these limits that are set, and then you end up finding yourself 30, 40, 50, 60 years old with the same belief that a 7-year old concluded, right? And yet it's changeable because it's possible. Other people have done it. They've been down that path, and
Yes.
when you're going down that path on the way, when they're coming back, you can ask them, how did you do it? And they'll
Yep.
tell you. All right. So it is possible. You just have to believe that it's true, and then it's attainable. And then, okay, now what's the next step?
Yeah. 100% agreed. And then when it's one of those moments where it's like, yeah, I hear you, but I still got, my life and this is what's going on in my life. Like,
Mm-hmm.
is it possible? Is it true? Maybe, right? Ask yourself that. And so for me, it's like the self-talk, the mantras, the affirmations, everything that goes through that we filter through our minds is, I mean, it's an uphill battle, with everything that's going on in billboards and advertising and social media and news feeds on our phones. It's like, what are you feeding yourself, right?
Yeah.
What wolf are you feeding,
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, it's like, if you're focused on this one aspect of life, like got to pay the bills, and you don't want to spend 5 minutes on working on asking yourself, what do I want my ideal day to look like? Then, and you're telling yourself, I don't have the time to do that. Right. Uh, then that's what, to me, it's like you're focusing on the wrong things instead of focusing on what's possible. And like you said, it comes back to the belief. And I think that's what we're here to help individuals and make an impact and serve the people that reach out, lean into our community, and really surround themselves with what we're trying to do here is make an impact on these podcasts and these episodes, and drip wherever we can to, for things to change, I understand that I have to change. Okay, well, what does that look like? And let me get curious on what the possibilities can be. And that's kind of where it all starts, is curiosity, right?
Mm-hmm.
What does my ideal look like? Let me go back to that imagination. Why is Disney World so one of the top companies in the world to this day? Is because you go back, I don't care if you're 40, 50, 60 years old. I know 60-year-olds that are going back to Disney World. It's because they get to be that little kid again. What's the
I never thought I'd like
possibilities?
Disney World. I went with the kids, and we went twice in one year, 2 years ago. And the first time I was dreading it, was not looking
Yeah,
forward to it. We came back, I was like, I can't wait to go back. Like I just felt like, there's all the political stuff that goes around it. Forget that for a minute. Just the environment of what it truly was, what it originally was, and I just felt like, man, and I'll go back again
yeah.
because it's just a place you get to forget
You're
and believe,
smiling right now,
and
for if you're
yeah,
watching this
just
on
thinking
YouTube, like
about
you're
it, man.
smiling ear to
Yeah,
ear right
imagining
now.
that feeling. I'm imagining like not being at Disneyland every day, but like that feeling of this is what you could feel like. It doesn't have to feel like you're grinding every day, like
Right, right.
lost. And so if there's one thing you get from this episode, right, is spend 5 minutes. And what is your ideal day? Go deep. Go get deep into the details, and just sit with that for a little bit, and just see how good that would feel. And when the smile starts to fade because you don't believe it's possible, and that makes you sad, believe that that's just a belief that you have, right?
Yes.
It's just a thought process that you believe that it can't happen, but it can. And stay tuned for more stuff that's coming, that we're coming up with. And reach out to us, ask this question if you want that, man. Let's talk about it. Let's discuss it. Let's get it out in the open. And maybe set some accountability up for you, and that it is possible. You could have that ideal day, man. Heck, even if your day was 10% better, I'll take 10%. I'll take
100%.
one. And incrementally 1% better every day. What would your life look like in 10 years, 3 years, 18 months? What could it look like? And it's possible.
Yeah. And get real honest with yourself too. I mean, you have the power within, right? If you're really honest with yourself, you're like, things are good, right? Making a good paycheck, got a roof over my head, kids, and all this other things. Okay, but that's cool. That's surface level. But are you really alive? Do you really feel? And I think when you answer that, what do you want your ideal day to look like? And you really answer that transparently and genuinely and authentically, then is your actions, right, and how you're living your life aligned with that? And if it's not, then here's your sign.
Hmm.
And so I'm curious. Yeah, people. Yeah, if you're listening to this, thank you so much. Make sure if you're on YouTube, subscribe. Leave us in the comments what you liked about the episode. Then also DM us. If you have an ideal day, I'd love to hear your ideal day, because
Hmm.
everybody's different. So if we can be a part of your journey, we'd love to be. And thanks again for listening. And outside of that, level up and live.
Level up and live.